My name's Scott Graham, and as you know, my family and I are building a 2,400 square foot barndominium in the panhandle of Florida. We're really excited about it, and part of the process is obviously the architectural process, where we work with an architect to design some plans for the home. And what I thought we might do is take you on more of an immersive journey on what that process looks like and some things to look out for, some things to be aware of throughout that whole journey of architecture and planning, so that it makes your life a little bit easier in the long run.
So what you'll be able to see here is just a very high level plan on what we want our home to look like. So you can see we've got about a 25-foot wide living space by 40 feet. And then we have two glass overhead doors that we're going to plan to use as windows / doors that we can open so that we can open up the house to our 19 acres of property, right? And we're really excited about that. I think that'll look really cool. Then we have a fireplace planned for here. We're also going to then plan a sliding door for this area right here to exit out to this area. And so we're going to have a bit of a wraparound concrete porch in this region. And I'm thinking about potentially building a shade structure for that, but we're going to play with that in the future. Our main objective is to get the main house built. And here we have a bedroom and another bedroom up towards the front of the house. And you can see that what I've done is I've minimized the amount of space we have for hallways and maximized the amount of space we have for actual rooms. And I've done that because hallway space is just wasted space. And then we have a bathroom over here, and then over here will be laundry and a pantry. Now, this is what I provided to the architect. I drew this up in AutoCAD myself, and that's not necessarily something that is expected of anybody, but you can sit down with an architect and sketch out some ideas, or take some existing plans from online and sketch out some ideas there as well. There's a number of different a number of different plan providers that you can work with who actually have plans for barndominiums that you can look at. You can actually work with them as well on the designs of these. And so you can see the front of the house, we would have a couple of windows, one per each bedroom here, a very large front door, and then the overhead doors. I've placed on the front of the house, because it's going to be about a 22-foot face to the house, because we have a single slope roof coming down, which you'll see here in a moment with the architect's other plans. So he actually had some plans, oddly enough, of a home very similar to what we wanted to build. And I'll also show you a 3D rendering so you can visualize this a little bit better. I've also included a few windows above the garage doors as well, just to bring natural light in. It's important to note in the United States, if you want a ton of natural light in your home, you want your windows in your home to be facing, the windows to be facing the south side. If you don't want a lot of natural light in your home, or you want to avoid your home heating too much in the summer, like if you were in Florida, then you would put your windows potentially on the north side of the home, which is what we're doing. We're sloping our roof to the south side because if there's a lot of solar coming from the south, that means that a south-orientated roof will produce the largest amount of energy in the United States, and you want your solar panels tilted to the south. And that's precisely what we've done. So, so that's a little bit about what we provided to the architect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the renderings of the home that we provided to him, and then I'll show you some plans that he's just shown us, and we'll review that a little bit with you as well, just to kind of talk a little bit about what he's done there. These are not our plans. They're plans for a house that's about half the size of ours, but you can see that it's very similar to our design. Okay, so this is the rendering of the home that we are going to build. Our residence will be a little bit bigger than this, but it's very exciting to see this. We're probably going to have a sliding glass door here. We might start with a smaller door, but we will have the metal building manufacturer plan for a sliding door there. Very important to note that within this area here, there's going to be a metal building column. Within this area here, there's going to be a metal building column. You must plan your designs pretty well around the columns. You can work a little bit with the metal building manufacturers depending on the type of metal building that you're building. Remember, there's red steel, and then there's actual a typical metal building where you would have purlins and all the rest. And so you can work with them a little bit on moving their columns, but ultimately it's their job to make certain that your structure will stand up against the wind load requirements of each region. So in Florida, I think we're 120 miles per hour. So our structure must be built to accommodate or withstand 120 mile per hour winds, which makes perfect sense because we get a lot of hurricanes. So in this area here, we're going to have a large living room, and we're going to be polishing our concrete floors. So that's also really exciting for us. We really like that idea. And we're thinking about the potential of adding some geothermal heat or some form of a heated floor in our home. We're not really sure on that yet, but we're considering it. So that's just a little bit about what our home's going to look like in the end. And interestingly, here are some of the drawings that the architect has provided us with about that smaller home that he's designed, which is pretty cool. You can see here, it's a very similar design. It's that single slope roof as I've talked about, and they are starting with 10 feet. We plan on starting with a 12-foot wall here, so we're going to be about 12 feet, and we're going to go on up to about 22 feet. And our house is quite a bit wider than this, so our house is 40 feet wide, 40 feet this direction, and 60 feet in the alternate direction. So a little bit about what that looks like. So keep in mind that windows and doors are very expensive. So the more windows and doors you have, the higher cost of your build is going to be. It does not mean that you can't plan for eventually inserting windows and doors into your metal building, and that's something that you should definitely think about. So when you're communicating to the builder, you can say, hey, we need to make a provision to have windows right here and right here, but I can't afford to install them today. It's something that I'll do in the future, so that you make sure that they try to make a provision from a framing perspective within that middle building for those windows. And again, you can see this is the front and the back of the home, and this is a really plain look. We're certainly not a fan of this, but hey, you've got to do what you can afford to do. The beauty of building a Barndominium is it's something that you can stage and you can step through it, right? So eventually, if you wanted to add a bit of a shade structure here or a roof over top of the entry door, you certainly can. You don't need to do it today, but it's something that you can make provisions for. Just make sure you communicate that to the architect and the metal building manufacturers. The metal building manufacturer is responsible for building the structure of designing and building the structure of the building. So you just need to make sure that you have provisions to add that in the future if it's something that's going to be attached to the home. So make sure you communicate that. And here you can see a floor plan. And this is a very basic house, and it's a very basic floor plan. You can actually see that this is one of the electrical plans here, a little bit of plumbing fixtures in here, but not a ton of information about that on the schedule yet. But you can see this is that smaller home that the architect designed. He just wanted to show us what his product was and what it looked like. And this is a 45-foot by 22-foot home. We're building a 40-foot by 60-foot home on our end. And you can see here that the electrical here for the electrical is planned for a switch, and then you have a ceiling fan. You can see each one of these symbols is a symbol for a power outlet, and so each one of those are a power outlet. As you can see on plan here, and some of this is basic. You probably know all of this already, but I'll just point this out to you. These are windows here, here, and here, and these are all windows across the back. You can see when you have a sweep like that, that's a door. So they only have right now a provision for one door in and out of the home. Sorry, two doors. There's a sliding door right here. And so there's a door to enter the home here, and there's a door to enter the home here. I suppose if you're in the country and you have a bit of a decision to make, do you want one point of entry and exit from your home or two? Some of it might depend on your security. You might be worried, well, if I'm in the country and I call the police and somebody's trying to break in, what do I do? If you minimize your points of entry, you then have one point of entry and exit that you need to make sure is fortified. Of course, windows are always something that's exposed unless you place something. For instance, in Australia, we have something called crim safe, and it's a little bit of a heavy mesh that's placed over top of windows that's very, very difficult for intruders to break into, and you would hear it long before they'd ever get in through something like that, right? And if you did, so what a lot of people do when they build homes in the country is they place a safe room kind of in the center mass of the house, and that safe room might be built out of concrete-filled block or something like that with a fortified door, just in case something went bad. And you can also use that as a gun safe room. Of course, in the United States, there's a few different ways that you can protect yourself. We may or may not decide to do a safe room. It's something that we're talking about right now with the architect, but it's undecided at the moment. This little bit of look here, that's concrete. It kind of looks like concrete, but we call that a hatch in the architectural world, and that's concrete. You can see here that the bathroom, they have a little tiny pantry here, sink, toilet, bathtub. Now, if you have kids, it's good to have a bathtub. If you don't have kids, a shower is probably a really good way to go. It just depends on what you want to do, right? It's all about personal preference. You can see this is what a shower looks like. And this is kind of that X is kind of indicating that each little part of the floor of that shower needs to be sloped towards that center drain. And a lot of this is common sense, but that's kind of how it goes. And yeah, so that's pretty well. And this is the mechanical unit. So this is air conditioning system here off to the side of the house. And it just says that, hey, the mechanical contractor is going to verify the location of that. Depends on what you guys want to do. Do you want to run spiral ductwork? Does it have vaulted ceilings? What's that house going to look like? So in our home, as you might recall, when I was showing you those plans earlier, we had 2 bedrooms up front, but we have a 22-foot ceiling in that area. So what we might actually do is build a loft on top of those 2 bedrooms to actually increase our square footage somewhere to around 3,000, 3,200 square feet. Pretty exciting thing to be able to do. And I probably will make that provision during the internal framing process of the home anyways. So every time you see a little S with a $ through it, that's a switch. Yeah, so plans are pretty basic, pretty easy to read once you kind of get a feel for it. And you can see this is north elevation, so that means that north is this direction. And you might move things in the future anyways. You might go, oh, I don't want a power outlet right there. I want to move that somewhere else, or maybe I don't want my sink here or a sink here. We don't want one. But you have to plan for this, because they're obviously in the concrete slab below. You have to pull plumbing up from underneath that slab and prepare for a kitchen sink to be there, right? So, and that means you have to have hot water, cold water. So hot water supply, cold water supply, and kind of your gray water plumbing for the exit, for everything that's going down the sink as well. So in our home, we're going to have an inductive cooktop on the island itself, which means that I have to place some electrical conduit under the slab and prepare to pull some heavier cables through that, or more cables in parallel through that conduit to enable the amount of power draw that a inductive cooktop has. We really like inductive cooking, by the way, on our end. You can boil a pot of water in just a matter of a couple of minutes. It makes cooking more consistent, a lot easier to use. I think the only considerations that you need to make on your end and what you place in your home is electromagnetic interference and all the rest. So inductive cooktops do put a lot of EMF off. We are not going to have Wi-Fi in our home either. Important to note, I'm going to hardwire the entire home so that you can just plug your laptops in. We really don't want to have Wi-Fi. So it's just not healthy. So we're trying to avoid that at all costs. Another thing you need to think about when you're drawing your plans, and this is also quite important, is you have this situation where you go, well, I'm in the country, maybe I should have security cameras. Make sure that you have a central location or a cabinet located somewhere that you can have an NVR for a security system. And make sure you run data, so data cables next to your door for a doorbell and for every corner of your home. So guys, this is the foundation plan, and as you can see here, we have all of the plumbing fixtures and all of the electrical fixtures that the architect has noted on here, because you need to have underground conduit or underground plumbing prepared for all of those. So that's remember that's hot water supply, cold water supply if applicable, and certainly the gray water or black water exits from the residence, right? So that's all noted on plan so that those provisions can be made early days. Now, I want to talk about the edge of your slab, okay? So right here. So you can see here how they have a 1-inch radius turned down on the edge. That's fine, but if you are building a metal building and you have that metal siding that's coming down, the sheets of metal coming down from your walls, and you have a slab. So typically what you want to do is you want to have a lip like this that metal sits down on, a concrete lip, so that the edges of that, because typically you have kind of connection lips inside those panels, and some of them have different rigidity kind of let's call it indentations in that, just to make them a bit more rigid. That can expose your home to pests and whatnot. So if you place a lip, so this would be the top of your slab, and then you step down a little bit and you have a little bit of a lip so that panel can sit down on that concrete lip and it's sealed against something, right? It's not just floating like this, and that's what you want. So what I would do is I would step your lip down and step it out so that siding can sit down on a lip, and you can even seal that as well from the inside out. So I think that's what you guys need to certainly make sure you pay very close attention to that. Make sure there are provisions from an electrical perspective, so on the outside of the house as well for your exterior lighting. If you want to have flood lighting around the house, or if you want to have decorative, Americans love to put the wall sconces on the exterior of the building. Make sure you do that. Or if you want to have downlights in the kind of in the soffit of your roof overhang, make sure you have a provisions from an electrical perspective on plan for that as well. And don't forget to run those cables when you're building your home. So I hope all of that makes sense to you. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I worked as an architectural draftsman and a structural steel draftsman in my younger years. Now I run a power company of sorts. We're a renewable energy power company for multi-tenanted communities and properties. It's called Rex Energy USA. So I encourage you to look up our website as well. It's rexenergy.us. It's a little bit about what we do as a company, but in this particular instance, this is my personal home and my personal build, and we're really looking forward to the journey. So again, if you have any questions, reach out, say hey, and please like and subscribe. It really helps us on our end get to that point where we can monetize a little bit of viewership on our end, and it'll help out with the build. So thanks again, guys. Have a great one. Bye now.